What is a CMA in real estate? How often or when should I get one? Are they reliable? How are they conducted here in the Gorge? And what is the difference between a CMA and an appraisal? Well, let's go over all of that and more in this video. Starting with, what is a CMA? Well, a CMA is a comparative market analysis and is a tool that real estate agents like myself use to estimate the value of a specific property by evaluating similar ones that are recently sold in the same area. When or how often should you get a CMA? Well, I recommend anytime you're looking to sell your home or at a minimum, yearly. How much is a CMA? Well, they're free, or at least I wouldn't pay for one. Just ask your favorite realtor for a CMA, and at the moment, I don't know of anybody who's charging for them, so that's great. How are CMAs conducted in the Gorge? And more importantly, are they reliable? Well, I've always explained to clients of mine that CMAs are like apples to oranges, kiwis to avocados, and sometimes they're just plain bananas. So let me explain two situations most realtors in the Gorge face: subdivisions and rural communities. As a realtor, the first situation we may encounter is most likely in subdivisions, where homes are spec built and oftentimes more comparable in square footage, lot size, location, beds, bathrooms, qualities, features, etc. Neighborhoods like these are generally easier to price and, in my professional opinion, offer a bit of financial security because these micro markets are easier to trend. Markets like these in the Dalles or the suburbs of Hood River, it's just easier to assess what a home's market value will likely be because properties are more comparable and they have a generally more sales and therefore larger data sets to work with. So as a realtor, the second situation we may encounter is in rural communities. And how do you evaluate a home further out of town and more of a rural area? Well, that's a bit like cowboys and Indians. So we can get a little bit of everything when we're working in rural areas, from $1 million mansions on 5 acres to old farmhouses on 100. This is where, as an agent, we have to start being picky on the properties we use to compare our subject property to. This can be difficult in even smaller markets like ours, where we don't have very many sales, sometimes in these rural areas. So often to do this, as a professional, I look at what is the most desirable and most difficult parts of a home to change. Almost every single time, that is the location of the home, the utilities, views, condition, and sometimes even the layout, to name a few. If a change is needed to bring two properties in better alignment, comparison-wise, this is where I would do something called an adjustment. And adjustments come in handy because we're trying to bridge the gap between apples and oranges, and sometimes trying to make something more like a Granny Smith apple and a Honeycrisp. At least now they're both apples. After any necessary adjustments, I will provide my clients a price range of where I think their home would sell for in today's market. When I'm evaluating properties and subdivisions, this price can be generally closer together. And when I'm looking in rural communities where I'm lacking comparables and potentially making adjustments, this is where my number can be a little larger. So lastly, what is the difference between a CMA and an appraisal? Well, the short answer is a CMA is done by a local, knowledgeable realtor, often for free, which is a service I provide, just call me. Whereas an appraisal is generally used by a lender for a borrower obtaining a loan for financing. The purpose of this is to help banks and lenders avoid lending more than what the home is really worth. So generally, these appraisers are hired and they work from a third-party company, and they travel generally from larger marketplaces like Portland and Vancouver. It is their primary job to appraise homes. So you can hire an independent appraiser to appraise your home. You don't have to be working with a bank to get one. Appraisers are licensed and evaluate properties using more valuation methods such as the cost approach, income approach, land use approach, and what realtors usually use, the comparable approach. So appraisals can cost around $300 to $2,000 for a residential home. And in my opinion, CMAs can be very accurate actually. And unless your loan is requiring it, you're refinancing, or you're lending out money of your own, I wouldn't necessarily get an appraisal, but that's up to you. So that's the basics on what a CMA is. If you're curious what your property is worth today in this shifting market, I'd recommend getting a CMA. Reach out to myself or your trusted realtor, and we'd be happy to compare all of the apples and oranges and bananas in your neck of the gorge. So that's it for this video. I'm Brett Stomps with Windermere Real Estate right here in the Columbia River Gorge, signing off once again. Take care.